If you have questions or suggestions for future podcasts, please submit them in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. The digital dollar deceit. Hi, I'm Dave Arnott, the Christian Economist. The U.S. government first issued paper currency in 1861. For over 160 years, we have used dollars as our currency. You might even say cash has been king, but more on that later. But it might be replaced by another king, the digital dollar issued by the Federal Reserve Bank. A fiat is more than a car. In the context of cars, fiat is an acronym for Fabbrica Italiana Automobile Torino. Worth coming to class, I didn't know that. But we're talking about fiat money, not fiat cars. In this context, fiat means when a king says something like, let it be. In economics, it means an arbitrary or authoritative command. Now, many currencies still have the face of the national sovereign on their currency. It recalls the classic case when the Pharisees were testing Jesus by asking if his disciples paid the tax to Caesar. In response, in Matthew 22, Jesus asked, whose likeness and inscription is this? Oh, a couple observations. They were testing Jesus, who we believe was God. Not a good idea. Okay, we often miss the most important part of that verse. Jesus responded, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. That's the first part, but now the important part. He said, and render unto God what is God's. That means you and me. We're made in the image of God, which I unpack in podcast number 32 by that same name. So the coin goes to Caesar, and we go to God. But back to the fiat idea. The king or queen issued the currency, so he or she was in control of it. Samuel Gregg, writing in his book, For God and Profit, pointed out that the king could call money value up or down, depending on whether the debt was owed to him or from him. Now, you're welcome to notice that the U.S. government is now calling the money value down via inflation because its debt has increased from 20 trillion to 30 trillion in just a few years. The Great Reset. Writing in the Epoch Times, an article by John McGleon, a digital dollar is coming. Americans should be concerned. He says, a large number of Americans still believe, somewhat naively, that cryptocurrencies are the future of finance. They're not. Central bank digital currencies are the next step in the evolution of money, writes Mr. Gleon. I challenged the World Economic Forum in my podcast number 112, titled The Great Reset. My basic argument is that Christians believe in two great resets. Christ came to earth as the God-man. He's coming back. There are two great resets in history. In the meantime, how are Christians to produce and distribute goods in a scarce environment? My work as Christian Economist is to seek answers to that question. Now, unlike cryptocurrencies, which are decentralized and designed for privacy, digital currencies put out by the central banks are centralized and public. They are in many ways the antithesis of cryptocurrencies because they are not private. Now, the United States is one of over 100 countries who are looking into digital currencies issued by their central banks. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and Fed Chairman Jerome Powell generally support the idea. But Mr. Powell's comments are somewhat concerning. He said, a digital dollar would be both identity verified and not anonymous, meaning they would know who these currencies were issued to because of a code number. Oh, so the idea that your banker and you are the only ones who know about your transaction, it could be a thing of the past. Hillsdale College produces an annual conference called the Free Market Forum. At the meeting last year, I listened carefully as a bright young man made the case for digital currencies because of their security aspects. Maybe it's because I'm older, but I wondered aloud whether the federal government was going to allow the entry of a competitor to their currency, which they control through the Federal Reserve Bank. I know, the Fed is supposed to be independent, but I've produced 2 podcasts showing how they're not very independent. Maybe my prediction is coming true. There's talk about a digital currency from the Fed that will be interlinked with other national currencies. You know it's not far behind? the multinational tax cartel that Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen tried to institute about a year ago. I called this the tax cartel in podcast number 75 by that name. And that's what this is. So if this proposed new digital currency is aligned with other national currencies, Ms. Yellen will see this as a prime opportunity to spring her tax cartel trap on the developed economies of the world. Big brother. Digital IDs will undoubtedly be linked with a person's financial transactions as well as their social media activity. Furthermore, digital IDs could certainly be used by governmental entities to provide big brother surveillance of individuals. China has already produced a system for issuing social credit scores. Think about how that could be used. The government would know what soap you buy, how much alcohol, the brand of cigarettes you purchase, and important for Christians, they would know how much you gave to your church and other parachurch organizations. Now, you know that pro-life clinics have been attacked since the repeal of Roe versus Wade decision. It'd be very threatening for others to know how much you gave to those pro-life clinics. The IRS is already upping their game. They just got the funds to hire 87,000 new agents. If there's a digital currency, those agents will be provided the tools to audit every one of us at the flick of a switch. My podcast on that recently was titled, "The IRS Targets the Proletariat." It was number 140. In economics, we understand that people exercise their own self-interest. The interest of the government will be to design the digital dollars so they won't work with products they disagree with. Or it would be easy for them to set limits on your purchase of meat or gas or other items they determine are detrimental to the environment. And they can seize your bank account, just like they did with the truckers in Canada, simply for disagreeing with the policy of the politician currently in office. Is it the mark of the beast? I don't think so, but you're welcome to interpret it as such. Here's what it says in Revelation 13, 16 through 17. The beast forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. End of Revelation. Okay, quoting Mr. Gleon from the Epoch Times again. It is not difficult to imagine a world where every U.S. citizen will be required to have a digital ID to carry out a number of, if not all, online transactions, and perhaps even a social credit score, all in the name of safety, of course. In New Testament times, the Roman government controlled people in this same manner. Mary and Joseph went to Bethlehem to be taxed, or for a census, depending on which version of the New Testament you're reading. But the reason was governmental control. That census produced verification that allowed citizens to conduct business in the Roman world. The digital currency will produce the same tracking mechanism, but at today's hyperspeed and power in a digital world. I've already given the feds lots of data to be part of what's called the global entry system that allows me to go through a shorter line when I return to the U.S. on a flight. There's another new one now called Verifly. Okay, like the Blob in the 1958 science fiction movie, the government is like the Leviathan in Job and Psalms, but this one continues to feed on information. Self-interest and the fallen nature. I'm not much of a conspiracy guy. After living in Dallas for 45 years and reading a couple books on the John F. Kennedy assassination, I still think Lee Harvey Oswald was simply one crazy guy with a gun. But as an economist, I tend to look at life through a self-interest lens. And as a Christian, I understand the fallen nature. Thus, it's easy to predict how some type of personal information tracking system will emerge from the digital dollar deception. As a guest on the Situation Report recently, I thanked my host Jeremy Stallnecker for his service in the Marine Corps. That's because political freedom is not free. It has to be maintained. Economic freedom is not free either. It has to be diligently maintained. The Greeks told the story of Sisyphus, who was condemned to roll a stone up a hill every day. When he returned to the next morning, the stone was at the bottom of the hill. Your work seem like that sometimes? Sisyphus helps us understand the nature of things because they always roll downhill. Political, economic, and religious freedoms naturally roll down. We have to push them back up every day. Information privacy. Currently, I'm looking for a used pickup to buy. So now, while scanning information on the web, I get ads for, guess what? Used pickups. You've noticed this too. At our church home group, we were entertaining each other recently with examples of how advertisers seem to know what we're interested in. Well, they're tracking the websites you visit. You think political actors want to know this? Yep. And through digital currencies, they will see where you buy products and services. While writing Biblical Economic Policy with Sergei Seidamitov, we found 10 biblical principles of economics. Number 5 is use honest measures. The exhortation is found a few different places in the Old Testament. This one comes from Proverbs 16:11. The Lord wants weights and measures to be honest, and every sale to be fair. Honest scales and balances are from the Lord. He made all the weights in your bag. Central bank digital currencies are not honest weights and measures. I'm Dave Arnott, the Christian Economist. Fear God, tell the truth, earn a profit. See you next time. For more information, please visit us online at davearnott.com. If you have questions or suggestions for future podcasts, please submit them online or in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.